I'm not saying society is all of them just blinded by the eyes. No, it's a few are not blinded and see clearly what's our society will be like in some ways. But the thing is, it's not about that. It's about the both side of it. And if you want to reach true wisdom, man, I mean, like, if you want to reach in some ways, like, well, if you want to be this, like, somewhat big, start simple. If you want to be succeeding at something, start simple, and you might go big. Because sometimes people are impatient in some impatience, really impatient, and somewhat they don't even like start simple. They just start complex things in some ways. But the thing about it, it's, well, stupid people. I don't know if I can define it as a stupid people, but somewhat people don't want to be stupid anymore, which is don't want to learn anymore. They just stop at being like this illusions of self that they're smart. They just like stop thinking and stop really seeing things, and it's really the danger of society. I think danger of human beings actually. You're gonna be that, man. You're gonna be that in some ways, in ways that you are just like. I mean, what I mean by that is, it's very much you're gonna be like, you can't do anything, man. You're just like tiresome, lonesome ghost in some way, because it's just like the reality is like now it's really it's not about it's not about this physical world anymore. It's about that world, and it's quite interesting because the thing about it, these reflections it's insane, right? It's quite insane, and it's almost like this break the traditionals of upper generations in some way. And about this upper generations of our upper generations is they don't even understand what it's like, right? Because the thing about upper generations is it's they just like, I'm not saying they're vanished, but it's quite, it might be like that. Their soul is vanished in some way. They're just like don't know what to figure it out. So what does it mean? Well, when you're old in some way, when you're old, you just like this man who can't even like, you have a slower process of thinking thoughts, right? So what the wisdom is come from is that from that slower thoughts in some way, because I think old men are really, I might not say want to learn more, but it's not really the point. The point is the thing that our generations will do in some ways. Our generations will do is something that you can't even imagine on. That's the thing, right? So we have to predicate that into that thoughts in ways, because I think the thing will, well, probably the thing is you don't know where's my point. Well, my point is to think, to make you think. That's the point. I think that's really the point. The point is to make you think about this world, because this world is going to be somewhat, I might not say destroyed by this. I want you to think, because I think I found myself there. I see miracle everywhere, and it's quite interesting because what I see about miracle, it's not about miracle, bro. It's very much this people who are lost in some way, lost in anger and lost in sadness in some way. Because I think I've met a lot of people. I think in this world, I guess, and it's quite interesting because the thing about it, it's the fact that it's just like this world is full of like people that just aren't grateful about themselves in some ways, and well about what is grateful, thing about grateful, it's something that we have to acknowledge on, and you have to think it that true in some way, thought that true actually, because the thing about it is the fact that you have to respect in somewhat your inner way of thinking. Well, what is inner way of thinking? Well, probably it's quite abstract, and it's quite interesting thought to have to channel that onto achieving your goal, because the thing about achieving your goal, it's quite interesting because I study before I reach this point. I want to say that I study a movie which is very much interesting, and is very much, I don't know if I might say it's a good thing or not, but in somewhat I think it's a good thing because movie, it somewhat replaces in a novel, and it's like compacted into like this 2 hours of reading, right? So that's probably the best way to explain what movie is and what movie can do to us. But it's really about being yourself. Well, what is being yourself? Well, it's really interesting because it's always been the other way around. It's not really the other way up. Well, people always think that, people think that we're going outside, we always like this manner of like going outside, and it's quite interesting how we see that true, because the thing about it, not it's not even the point. The point is what's going inside, right? So what does it mean, right? So it means that people sometimes irritated by the things that they've done other than the things that they've received. So that's really interesting to analyze, because things that they receive is something that they've done. So what is something that they've done? People have sins, and people have somewhat, I might say, I don't know if I don't know could I what can I explain, well, what could I explain that into on and embed it into something that are meaningful, because the thing is, it's not really meaningful, because the thing it's just this idea of something, and it's not really, you don't have to think that it's meaningful. That's the thing about it, right? You can't even think something that is just like this insane idea it's meaningful. It's not really about that. It's the other way around. It's just like this idea that I have to go through life. So what if you want to be succeed? Don't. The first thing that you do is think what if you don't succeed. Probably that's the thing about life, right? That's the thing about life. Because if you think that yourself is somewhat just wanted something that are not even like relevant, well, not relevant in some ways. It's quite the thing that you want to be but it's not really there. You're just kind of like dreaming. Well, of course we are entering in this illusions of mind, which is we can reflect that into well, YouTube and stuff, because it's not really real, right? It's really artificial. And what does it mean? It means like that we as a generations of the society of this, like probably like 20 and or 30 years forwards in some way, to think that it's just like this reflections that can reflect that. The thing about it is the fact that it's not going to be like that. If the world is like this, but it's the thing about it is the fact that it's probably good to be like that. It's probably good. That's the point. Probably that's the thing, right? It's probably good. But the thing about goodness or waves, well, not goodness in some ways, you have to extract informations that are good and bad. Well, what we're entering is just these informations, right? Well, probably sensations. You can say that in ways that we just like entering it. Well, probably sensations. I think it's just like this moment. I feel like the sensations of. I think I just like imagine things, which is very much interesting, because the thing is probably we're entering to a more creative, industrious society, which is very much interesting, because the thing about illusionary, well, it's not about that. It's quite going to be like probably not 10, 30 years. I might revise it. It's probably like 100 years or like 1,000 years, I think. Yeah, I think 100 years, I think, from now, which is very much probably I won't be alive. But I think, yeah, it's going to be like that. It's going to be like, right, well, for generations to come. I mean, like to change. It's not really like this change like that. No, it's going to be like this slow change. For example, this one is like right, this modern age society, right? This one is like the race of somewhat new age. I don't know what the hell is that new age things. And it's going to be probably it's embedded in unknown, somewhat. It's going to be horrific, I think, but I think it's going to be hard that I had I had to still put on myself to humanity. I had to, because the thing is, if not, what else would you trust on other than humanity? So the thing is probably this dark, right, dark side of us, or dark primal sides of us will come out again. So what does it mean come out again? It's probably not the way right? It's not really possible. Probably it's impossible, because the thing is they don't even like exist, because the thing is now it exists, man. It exists. It really exists. I can tell you it might be exist. It exists. It is exist. Well, might be, okay. So what does it mean might be? It means like in the future it might be exist, but nowadays probably it's not. Probably yes, it is exist, but you don't realize it. Which I think it's quite terrifying things, to have to take on some way, because, well, I'm not trying to scare you off in some way. It's not really my point. My point is you have to leave that scared thoughts to not going to someone weird and weird way of thinking, right? Weird way of belief in some way. Because the thing about it is, it's very much the fact that you have to lift on to something that you're not yourself. So what is you're not yourself? Well, it's to come to that point. Well, actually, I don't know if I come to that point. I might just like talk to this like ideas and jump around, but it's not really jumping around. It's quite in this like sculpture of things that I want to build. But the thing about what I want to build, it's not really planned in some way, because the thing is, what's planned in a anyway. Because the thing about ideas is just like this popping out, right? And I'm trying to communicate that in somewhat to you, and probably I get 1% of 99% of this idea correct in ways, but it's still ideas, and it's not really about, well, I don't know if it's if it's way of thinking, but it's not really about thinking, right? It's quite this philosophical idea of things, and it's not really about that. It's and I think it might be useful, because the thing about useful is they just like this horrific nature of things that I see, I think, that are just like embedded everywhere. Well, probably because I live in Indonesia, because it's just like this. Wow. All right, came to that point, which is I said I think about afraidness. Well, afraidness. What is afraidness? It's what you have to you have done. So what is done? Well, what is done in ways it's sometimes I do this a lot, because I'm very much lost in thought in ways, because it's just like this way of thinking, and it's really about this idea that I can't even figure it out to talk to, because this it's not really about this thought, it's about this purpose of this thought,